Pay attention to where your cat sleeps. Not the fact that it sleeps with you, you already know that, but exactly where it positions itself. Whether it's always the same spot or changes depending on the night. Whether it stays close or keeps a small distance. Whether it turns its face toward you or points its body at the door. Because none of that is an accident. Every detail of that nightly choice is a sentence it repeats every night, at the same time, the same way, waiting for the day you finally understand what it's saying. Most owners never do. Picture this. You're lying down, blanket up to your shoulder, eyes already heavy. Your cat jumps on the bed, takes 2 or 3 steps, kneads the comforter with its paws, and picks a specific spot to settle in, near your feet, or in the space behind your knees, or directly on your chest, facing the door. You figured it was coincidence. It isn't. This animal has the entire apartment available, the couch it warmed up all day, the living room rug, the shelf it claimed without asking permission, the window corner where street light comes in from the side, quiet places, places that are completely its own, and yet it's here in your bed, in that specific spot it chose, and that, if you pay attention, rarely changes. What your cat does every night isn't looking for comfort. It's a form of communication as old as the species itself, one it keeps up with you every single night without you ever asking or teaching it. Once you understand what each position means, every night will start to feel like a conversation you finally learned to hear. But to understand the position, you first need to understand what happens in the minutes before it settles in. There's a behavior almost no owner ever notices, and the most striking part is that 3 specific spots where it sleeps can reveal 3 completely different messages. Once you see that, you will never look at this ritual the same way again. There's a detail most owners have never stopped to observe. Some cats won't get on the bed until you lie down. They might be in the room. They might be watching you get ready for sleep. They might be sitting on the edge of the bed, waiting. But they don't settle. They don't pick their spot. They stay on standby until the exact moment you lie down, turn off the light, and stop moving. Only then do they get up. What's happening there is one of the most revealing behaviors a cat can have with an owner, and almost no one recognizes it for what it actually is. Cats read people's emotional state physically. They monitor breathing, posture, rhythm of movement. They know when you're restless, when you're tense, and they pick up with real clarity on the moment you finally let go. Studies on feline behavior indicate that domestic cats tend to sync their rest cycles with their owners. It's as if your cat threw out its own internal clock and bought one exactly like yours. It's not waiting for the bed to be available. It's waiting for you to be available. Picture this. You had a rough week. Friday night, you put on a show to watch in bed, but you were so drained, you passed out in the middle of an episode. Lights still on, laptop still open. And that was exactly the night, no routine, no set time, when your cat jumped up and settled in before you even realized you'd fallen asleep. It didn't wait for the usual signal. It waited for your body to give up what your mind was still holding on to. That's what happens when your cat adjusts its rhythm to yours. It notices when you finally slow down, and only then does it relax too. It's not training, it's a bond. Your cat doesn't sleep with you in spite of being independent. It sleeps with you because what it built with you is strong enough to change its behavior. And where it chooses to settle isn't random. It's a direct response to what it read in you that night. Once you know what each position means, you'll never be able to ignore it again. Now that you know it's reading you, start reading it back. The spot your cat picks in the bed is a response to the environment, to the night, and above all to the state you arrived in. If you watch for a few nights in a row, you'll notice a consistency there that starts to feel like a language. If it sleeps near your head, it's covering your most exposed point. In feline logic, the head is where vulnerability is highest. It put its body between you and whatever threat might come, without you asking, without you noticing. If it sleeps facing the door, it's standing guard. You rest, it watches. Not because it was trained to, because it chose to. If it sleeps with its back to you, don't take it personally. In the feline world, turning your back on someone is one of the highest gestures of trust that exists. It means you're safe enough that it doesn't need to keep an eye on you. And if it sleeps belly up, completely stretched out, pressed against you, that's it. The belly is the most vulnerable point on a cat's body. Exposing it next to you means every defense mechanism has been switched off because of the bond it built with you. There's one more layer to this, smaller but real. Cats have scent glands on their cheeks and forehead. When your cat rubs its face on you before sleeping, it's leaving an invisible signature, a way of placing you inside its closest territory. It's not the center of everything, but it's part of what happens every night while the two of you sleep. Picture this. You were reorganizing the bedroom, moved the bed to a different spot, changed the comforter. Nothing dramatic for you, but that night your cat jumped up, sniffed everything with that methodical calm, circled more than usual before settling, and stayed awake longer than normal before finally relaxing. The environment had changed. It needed to reread everything before letting its guard down. That's the same cat that on a normal night settles in within 30 seconds. Because on a normal night, it already read you, already confirmed everything was fine. The difference between those two nights is the difference between an animal on alert and an animal at ease. And you are the main variable in that equation. Watch your cat for 3 nights and write in the comments whether the spot it picks changes or stays the same. A consistent cat and a cat that shifts positions are saying 2 different things, and I want to know which one is yours. What comes next is what most owners never consider. What changes when you stop just receiving this behavior and start responding to it. That difference is smaller than it sounds and bigger than you think. Most owners receive this behavior every night. Few respond. And there's a real difference between the two. When your cat gets on the bed and settles in beside you, it's initiating an exchange, a form of communication it keeps up with real consistency, one that hangs in the air unanswered when you just roll over and go to sleep. You can start responding today. No routine changes, no complicated technique. When it chumps up and starts needing the comforter, look at it and blink slowly. In feline language, a slow blink is a response of trust. It's you saying you acknowledge its presence. That small gesture, done consistently, shifts the quality of the bond over time in a way that surprises most people who start doing it. The second thing is noticing when the pattern changes. If it always slept in one spot and suddenly shifted, pay attention. If it started sleeping farther away, if it takes longer to settle in, if it stopped getting on the bed with no clear reason, those are messages. Cats don't walk away from loaded habits without reason. It could be something physical. In older cats, a vet visit is worth it. It could be a change in the environment that seemed minor to you, but was significant to it. It could be a tension that stayed in the air and that it registered before you did. What you can do is simple. Approach calmly without forcing contact and recreate the conditions that once made that space feel safe for it. No rush, with the same patience it had while it was learning to trust you. Because this animal that seems so self-sufficient, that disappears for hours, that pretends not to need anything, that shows up on its own terms, holds on to this behavior with you that it holds on to with no one else. Every night it reads your state, picks where to be, and settles in, not because it needs to, but because it wants to. That's not the behavior of an indifferent animal. It's the behavior of an animal that decided on its own that you are the safest place it knows. Every living thing chooses where it lets its guard down. Yours chose you. After watching for a few nights, tell me in the comments, did the spot change or does it stay consistent? A consistent cat and one that shifts are saying different things. I want to know which one is yours. And if you want to keep learning what your cat is communicating every single day, subscribe now. Because in the next video, you're going to find out what it means when your cat looks you in the eyes and blinks slowly. It's one of the most misread signals that exists, and once you truly understand it, you will never be able to ignore that moment again.